strive towards finish. I may not get it, I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna walk away with here. It might be nothing. The paints are definitely getting covered up. That's why I tell you to put them in the same place every time in your palettes. The canvas is also getting kind of crystallized a little bit. Quite frankly, I like it. I think I know it sounds strange, but I think it really adds to the painting. Now those will freeze in with the paint, those ice crystals right there, and later the moisture will leave, but the texture of the paint will stay.
And in a landscape, that's exactly what we're looking for.
We get a lot of water dripping off once the ice and snow melted from the palette. Okay, here's an awesome tip that I think will help you. In this piece here with the snow piece, what you always want to do when you're painting in the snow, make this snow piece one shade or one tone or tint darker than what you are actually seeing. And the reason you can kind of see it's not dry yet, it's wet to the touch, but the ice crystals are still in the paint, mixed in with the paint, and the moisture will come out of there, but this texture will probably remain. That's probably how the paint is going to look. Yeah, this is the historic Schmid Ranch where they filmed that Quentin Tarantino movie, The Hateful Eight, if you ever saw that. Pretty disgusting movie, but anyway, I was up here painting a couple days when they were filming it over the span of a few months in snowstorms just like this. A famous historic ranch. The scenery here is unbelievable on a clear day. The mountain behind it is that Mount Wilson that I painted before that used to be on the Coors beer can. Years and years ago, just an iconic mountain here in Telluride, Colorado. So we're gonna go through 3 top tips for painting in the snow to help you make a beautiful snow painting. And I will say this, hey, some of the best paintings that I painted have been in the snow, and because they connect with people. It's an emotion, it's an impression and a memory of time and space. Let's get going. This is gonna be fun. This is what I live for. I love this. It's awesome. Millie's got her blanket today. She is so excited to get out here. You would not believe how she goes bananas before I get to leave and pack up and come out here. If you click the links in the description, I use dickblick.com and I'm an affiliate with them. So if you click on there at no extra charge to you, you can see all the painting supplies that I order. I also have a Utrecht link on there. Some of my paints are Utrecht paints. Very good paints I found lately, very affordable. Okay, the other thing we got is a cup of hot tea. It really helps keep the core warm on a cold, snowy day. Okay, before we get into our snow tips, the first thing that we do, if you're new to us here, is I put on a wash. It's a thin layer of paint with some turpenoid. And I want to go through my 4 Ps of the drawing stage with you before we get into our tips here. But first, I'm just putting on a darker, cooler wash here today to just kind of help out with the cool mood of the cold, snowy day. And let's go over the 4 Ps real quick of the drawing stage. Boom, here we go. Pieces, placement, proportion, and perspective. So I'm going to put the painting in time lapse in a minute here and show you my drawing in time lapse. And then we'll come back and talk about what I did. But what I do with the 4 Ps is, I divide the complex landscape up into 3 to 5 larger pieces that I can recognize and just kind of work off of throughout the painting. And specific to snow painting today, what you really just, you can't see as well because of the snow coming down through the atmosphere. So the pieces are going to probably just be 2 or 3 pieces. I would guess 3 pieces. Placement. You want to make sure that everything is placed in its proper boundary where that barn goes. Everything has a perimeter in the painting where it should go, with room for artistic license, of course. Proportion. Everything should be sized accordingly. So I don't want to make the barn, half the size of the painting, unless that's what I'm trying to do, And perspective. Anytime you have a chance to show perspective in your painting, be it with barn lines or railroad tracks or tire tracks or roads or whatever, buildings, you want to try to do that. It adds interest to your painting. You want to show it correctly. I'm not going to be able to show too much perspective today because of the atmospheric effects of the snow. So that's the challenge of painting in the snow. We've got a real dark wash here. Okay. Okay, let's talk about what I did here. I've got my pieces. I've really got 3 main pieces. Had to go quickly, it's very cold. But piece number 1 is going to be the barn. Piece number 2 is going to be that forest over there to my left. I think that will help me in the painting. Piece number 3 is really just a snowfield in front of the barn. So it's simple. And then the fence in the foreground, which is so kind of characteristic of Colorado ranches, we will put that in just to kind of help show some perspective in the painting. And this piece right here will help me show perspective as well. It's going to be a little bit darker. One thing you want to do in the drawing stage, in addition to your 4 Ps, is if there's light, you want to put in any shadows that are there, and you want to put your darkest dark in. And for me, I did the outline in white so you could kind of see it against my dark wash, but I'll paint a little bit darker right here. But the fence is going to be one of my darkest darks in the foreground because it's closer to me, it's darker. And as we recede back into the landscape, especially with the snow, things are going to get kind of messed up with values and colors and get kind of blurred. Really, after that, my darkest darks are going to be this forest over here that will help me show some perspective and layering and space and depth, which will be very, very challenging today in the snow because everything just looks washed out and white out. And then the barn itself. So piece number 1 here, it will be a dark, but not as dark as this fence. Okay, let's get into our snow tips. Here we go. Okay, if you're a beginner plein air painter, one thing you always want to do, and I've talked about this in previous videos, is put your paints out on your palette in the same piles all the time. And this is the primary reason why you want to do that, because the snow, as you can see, is building up on my palette, and it makes it hard to see your colors. So you have to kind of know where they are by feel. That helps when it's snowing and it's going to start to layer up. You can see my paints, you know, they're starting to get a little bit chunky already. Tip number 1, oils in the snow. You can paint with oils in the snow. Oils actually work better than acrylics and watercolors in the snow. It takes a lot to stiffen them up, to have them solidify, and you can do it to a certain point, but you can see what's happening right now is ice crystals are forming in the paint, making it a little bit like chunky peanut butter. But that's okay, don't be afraid. It adds to the authenticity of your painting. It makes it tougher to mix, so we got 2 things to consider here: the oils themselves and the canvas. Let's talk about both. All right, as we go here and mix up these colors. Just know that it will kind of feel a little bit like chunky peanut butter with the ice crystals forming in there. It's okay, you can still mix. Use a lot of medium. So in tip number 1 here, to help you in the snow mix oil paints and make it work, use a lot of medium. And you know, just kind of go quickly, paint quickly. Use an umbrella. So you can use an umbrella to cover your palette. I'm not going to today, but you can do that to cover your paints. This is going to be my fence color here. It's a mixture of alizarin crimson right here and some phthalo blue. I want to put a little cerulean blue in there as well. Let's go with barn color right there. It's going to be a little bit lighter in value to help me show perspective as it recedes off into the landscape. I see it as kind of a purple cerulean blue color, gray. You know, I'm going to put a little orange in there to gray it down a bit, a little cat orange, just to gray it down a bit. And as we mix up snow colors here, I'm going to put them on the bottom of the palette here. And so with piece number 3, we've got that big snow piece. I'm going to go with titanium white. I'm going to go with a little alizarin crimson, some ultramarine blue, a hint of cat orange to gray it down a bit. But it is kind of a darker piece, you know. I got to kind of observe and look at that. Again, part of painting in the snow is you really hone your observation skills, because you're looking at stuff you don't really see every day, every week, every month. Let's go with the tree color to the left, the piece number 2. I see it in the brown family, so let's just start off, let's keep harmony in the painting. So let's go with a purple color. So I'll use ultramarine blue, and then I'll use alizarin crimson, and then I'll use cat orange. That's a little too much on the orange side. It's hard to mix colors in the snow. There's snow in my piles of paint. I can't really see them. I don't know how much I'm grabbing. So it might take you a couple tries to kind of do that. You got gloves on, you know, it's not easy, but I think it really, again, adds to the authenticity of your painting. So this piece number 2 is part of one of my darkest darks. It's gonna be a little bit darker, but not too dark. I'm gonna lighten it up just a bit. Put it on the red side of the brown family. So a little bit of cad red in there. Not too much. Cad red is pretty powerful. Okay, let's move forward. Here we go. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, what I do in all my paintings, is go over my darkest dark again and just kind of get that in, because it keys my painting for all other colors. I can start from there knowing it's my darkest dark and work backwards and dial in my other colors more accurately. And just kind of loosely, quickly, just get it in there. These big pieces really quickly with the right color, value, and temperature. Okay, and then our barn piece right here. See, that needs a little bit more blue, so I'm going to dip into some cobalt blue. Put that there. Okay, tip number 2 is snow. Observe the snow. Observe the subtle colors and values in the snow. Snow is not always just white. I've got a big old glob of some that snow color that we made and mixed. It's got some ice crystals in it, you know. You can kind of see, if you can see that close up, but it's okay, it's still flowing. I used a little bit of my medium, this liquid impasto that I have, that's kind of that kind of toothpaste texture, like clear, somewhat clear gel. So far it's holding up. Whatever you choose to use, you know, Gamblin products are good, but this one is a Winsor & Newton product. It's holding up so far pretty good with the snow. So let's just kind of get our snow color in, and back to what I was saying with the snow colors, okay? Observing the colors and values. If you're a beginner, don't just use out of the tube white for your snow, for sure. Don't do that. That will not help you at all with portraying the landscape accurately the way it looks. And the other thing is, snow has water in it, right? Obviously, it's frozen water, so it's going to have somewhat of a blue base to it. But at the same time, don't just always use a blue, you know, kind of your ultramarine blue and white mixed together to make your blue for your snow as well. Look for other subtle colors and values. They are there. There's different tones and tints of gray, warms, cools, and so you want to kind of look for those. Just kind of carving out the barn with the snow color a little bit, just refining as I go, but just keeping things very, very loose, as you can tell. So I'm using both odorless terpenoid and my mixing solvent, impasto, liquid impasto. I'm using them both, and it seems to really be making this pile more fluid. This paint right here, this scoop, is a lot more fluid than what I first started with. So like I said in tip number 1, you want to use your mediums to help you keep your paint fluid and workable. You know, it's hard to paint in the snow. You know, you got to kind of be patient and just give yourself a little grace, because it's tough. So you got to kind of take a couple runs at things and get colors in maybe multiple times just to get it right. Okay, so back here behind the barn, for example, I'm seeing, you know, just a more cooler, lighter color of snow. There's some snow that goes up here into this aspen forest. There's a beautiful aspen forest. You know, the mountain is right here. If you could see, it's just a spectacular view. It's unbelievable. This snow goes up kind of into the aspen forest, and I see it as cooler. It's further from me. Generally, things that are further from you will be cooler. And I'm already getting really thick with paint. I'm sure you can see this. I'll zoom in here in a minute for you, but just kind of blending these two colors together, finding the snow is coming down right back there into the forest. So this is just that piece number 2, that forest that we were putting in there. And I said I wanted to keep it to 3 or 4 pieces. Piece number 4 right now is appearing before me. You know, the snow, it kind of comes on strong and then it lightens up a little bit. So what you see is different. Like here, I'll show you, just wait. So you can see piece number 4 there behind the barn, the foothills that go up to the mountain, that aspen forest. You see those evergreens in there, sporadically placed? That could be a really nice effect. You know, nothing too serious, nothing too strong, but just something subtle to kind of just give it some extra depth and space and atmosphere in the painting. So I'm gonna try to get those in real quick. That piece right there, I'm gonna try to get that in. I think that's gonna help me. It wasn't as visible in the beginning of the painting to me, so we'll see. Compositional choices that you make as you go, right? Okay, back to some mixing for that piece. So there's my color there for the forest. A little bit warmer in temperature, lighter in value than what's in front of me. So I've got that color there. And then for the evergreens, I'm trying to use a little bit of a limited palette here. I'm not using all my colors on purpose, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But I've got yellow ochre and then some ultramarine blue to get those evergreen trees that are sporadically placed back in there. And I'm going to put a little bit of cad red in there so it's not as powerful. A little bit of cobalt blue. I see those trees as kind of cool cool evergreen color trees. I can hear some elk bugling in that forest there. I don't know if you can hear that. That's pretty cool. You know what's not so cool? I can also hear coyotes. Plenty of times I've had to split from a painting, you know, due to coyotes, packs of coyotes coming a little too close to me and Millie. Millie, you all right over there, girl? All right, here we go. Let's do it. Some lost and found edges there. Did you notice that from previous videos if you were watching? It's one thing we can do. We find an edge, we lose it, we find it, we lose it, and it creates a sense of interest in the painting. And right here, there's a soft edge. I'm going to use my big brush here, my Signet brush, and I'm just going to do a little blending. Don't be afraid to try this if you're new. It's okay. You don't want to try to make a masterpiece. You want to just try to learn your skills of painting. You just use that brush to kind of blend, to show some softer edges, which is very, very important in a snow scene. Not everything's going to have crisp, clear, hard edges. Okay, let's just kind of sporadically place those evergreens in there. Unevenly. Don't do it so that they're spaced 1 inch apart all the time. That's not how nature works. So, and then later, if I want to make it a complete whiteout snowstorm, we'll do that. Okay, anybody having fun yet? I kind of decided I'm going to leave my fence out. I'm going to leave it out and put it in at the very end. Sometimes it's just easier to go over top of colors than get it in and dance around it. I just want to really work on this snow piece right here. Yeah, heck yeah, I'm having fun. This is awesome, man. I mean, I love this. I know you might think it's kind of crazy, but I live for this kind of stuff. I just love being out in God's beauty and the quietness and the stillness of it and the outdoors. I mean, what a way to enjoy the outdoors. I think it's amazing. A little bit cooler blue here in the foreground, underneath the fence. Okay, let's just further refine this snow hill here. Kind of comes down and has various planes in front of the barn. So we'll just show that. You kind of blend the snow up into the barn like that to show that it is a big snowy day. Some brush strokes like that. Now let's talk about dress for a second. You want to dress warm. I mean, not to get too personal here, but I've got some long johns on. I've got snow pants. I've got thin jogging pants, sweatpants on top of my long johns or my thermals, whatever you want to call those. And I've got several layers of jackets on. You certainly do want to keep your core warm. I have 2 pairs of gloves on. I have my fall painting gloves that you've seen before in other videos on underneath these, but I purposely use gloves that I can still kind of have some dexterity and some control and some coordination with, up to the point, you know, of not trying to freeze myself out, but I do want to try to maintain some control with the brush. Right now I'm just playing with these snow colors. You can do that a lot, mix one color into the other. All right, and that's what Impressionists do. It creates nice texture and nice effects and adds variety in the snow. I've talked about that before. Okay, here's an awesome tip that I think will help you. In this piece here with the snow piece, what you always want to do when you're painting in the snow, make this snow piece one shade or one tone or tint darker than what you are actually seeing. And the reason is because it never is as white as you see it. All right, so what you want to also remember is that will help you to put in your highlights and make them read better and stand out and register for you. For example, if the sun were peeking in and out, or if there were any kind of sun and I wanted to show some highlights, you know, like this in the snow, they're going to register and show better when I have a darker value underneath of it. Does that make sense? The contrast. So you don't want to just make all, you know, out of the tube white, because it'll make it harder for you to show on a sunny day your highlights in the snow. Does that make sense? Some lighter colors on the palette knife here. And we're going to go ahead and just kind of introduce that color into the side of the barn, just ever so briefly, just like this. We'll go over it again later, but I do just want to get that in there and show that side of the barn is lighter than the others. And on previous barn painting videos, if you haven't seen that one, go ahead and look at that video, but don't overmix your barn colors. Keep them so that they kind of have some different colors in there, like a rainbow effect off your brush or palette knife, because that's how barnwood is. It has different values and colors in it. All right, let's kind of further define the barn roof a little bit here. It is kind of a cooler color, so we'll try to show that. Man, so how's your week going? What are you up to? What are you painting? Throw me something in the comments. Let me know what you're working on, struggling with. You know, see if I can help. Feel free to email me. I've done that with several subscribers, just kind of emailing and trying to help each other. That's what we're here for. Use the community of plein air painters that you have to help you become a better painter. But I tell you what, we had a horrible week. My wife fell in the dark late at night off the stairs in our living room and had a terrible, terrible fall. And she busted her wrist so badly that it required surgery. And it kind of bummed us out, you know. I mean, we're trusting God with it, that everything's going to work out and she's going to get healed up. But it was kind of a tough blow for us, and she went through a lot of pain and had to get surgery right away. That was not a fun thing. I mean, you think, well, how the heck did she do that? How could you fall off stairs? Well, that was kind of my first thought. But you know, it was dark, it was late, she had her socks on, and she was just a little too close. And you know, stuff happens. But other than that, we're just trusting that 2021 is still going to be a good year for our family. Good things are going to happen, and I hope the same for you and your family. So we got to keep positive here. We got to encourage each other on and fight the good fight and stick with it. So that's kind of nice. You know, there is some light shining on that barn a little bit. That's the thing about winter light. It's very unique. All right, here we go. Just kind of further working on this piece here. Kind of changes as we go, and sometimes it's a bit of a battle with plein air painting, and you got to kind of struggle through it like that. And that's what I'm doing on this piece here. I'm really, I don't know if I'm really struggling through it, but I'm just deciding, you know, what value I want it to have and what color exactly, because it changes as the snow picks up and lets off. Things kind of change, you know. Okay, I think that was a dog. That was not the coyotes. I think that was a farm dog. Yeah, I hope. That's what I'm telling myself until they start running for me. All right, I'm going to show you something with this piece right here, because the snow has picked up, and like I thought, it's just going to change, you know. So compositionally, what do I want to do with that? And I could, can you see the ice crystals in the snow forming? It's on there pretty good, you know, but it will brush off. It will come off. But with this piece right here, I'm going to blend a bit, and it's a little risky, I know, a little scary, but I'm just going to kind of go like that, show the snow coming down and washing that out for now. And I might change that later. We'll see. Yeah, the crystallization is picking up. I can feel it in the paints, but so I got to use a little more turpenoid, a little more of my liquid impasto, just kind of constantly dipping. But I'm going to work on this right here, the snow coming down. I'm going to leave my wash underneath in certain places, because that's going to help show some depth back there, some things going on and some curiosity for the eye. But now what I'm doing is I'm just kind of washing that out again to see if I like it, you know, or not, because I can always go back in and change it. Another thing you can do is just very lightly with your brush, get the paint off of it, or take another brush that's clean and just kind of drag it down like this, and then put it up very lightly, just not even really, just barely touching.
And in a landscape, that's exactly what we're looking for.
To show kind of those effects, you know, of the snow.
There, let the canvas work for you. Allow the colors and the paint, everything to work together to make it easy.
Okay, just to show you kind of how easy it is to change things in your painting and not be too committed early on. So I'm just going to wash that out like that. I might leave just a hint of it in. See? Gone.
This is a painting technique that you can do. There's no big secrets here. People who have never painted do this every day, and it works for them.
I'm going to leave that right there on purpose. See how it's messy and undefined? Because I want the eye to be drawn right here for now, but not too much. I don't know how much I want people to focus on this yet. We'll see. What I want them to focus on is to explore the various areas of where where it's snowing, and I want them to try to find the pieces in the painting. All right, well, using, liquid impasto and using Turpenoid is really helping me keep this paint movable, and so I'm thankful for that. But up here on this forest, I just see a different color of a blue. It's cooler. We talked about differentiating your colors in the snow. I'm gonna add a little bit of phthalo blue in there, and watch how it kind of cools it up. See that? Okay, let's take a look at what we got so far. The paints are definitely getting covered up. That's why I tell you to put them in the same place every time in your palette so you can remember where they are. The canvas is also getting kind of crystallized a little bit. Quite frankly, I like it. I think I know it sounds strange, but I think it really adds to the painting. Now those will freeze in with the paint. Those ice crystals right there, they'll freeze in with the paint, and later the moisture will leave, but the texture of the paint will stay. And I really think that it adds to the beauty of the painting. Okay, let's move on to tip number 3 here before I turn into a snowman and Millie a snow dog. All right, what you can do is you can, in the snow, painting when it's snowing, you can use a limited palette, as I would paint with a limited palette. So what I'm doing for my dark, my blue, I'm using a ultramarine blue, and then for my red, I've used both alizarin and permanent rose, but you could just use, and I've used a little cad red, but just use one red. And then for a warm, instead of using these bright colors that you're just not going to see on a snowy day, the cad yellow light, the cad medium, and orange, is you could use your yellow ochre. So for example, if you wanted to mix, your trees, normally you would use ultramarine blue and a yellow. That's a good way to make the trees. Well, instead of that, I could use my ultramarine blue, and I could use yellow ochre for a more subdued, muted green that's not going to have all that power punch, So a limited palette is a great way to paint in the snow. And once again, I'm looking for ways to kind of challenge myself and try new things. And painting with limited palette can really help your color mixing abilities and skills. There's a lot of ice crystals on the canvas, so it's making it pretty difficult. At this point, you want to kind of try to hurry, and strive toward finish. I may not get it. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to walk away with here. It might be nothing. It might be something that goes in the Museum of Modern Art, worth $4 million, but you don't know what it is. Sorry, if you own one of those pieces, I apologize. We talked about it before. You're not going to have that dial, that full range of colors or values because of the atmospheric effects of the snow. So dial those in appropriately and get that right. So you really want to nail your 2 or 3 values, while you're going, and get that right. Right now the snow is definitely freezing. The paint on the brush is definitely freezing and chunking up, but we're going to kind of keep going, keep muscling through it. And then look at your edges, all right? So don't, like I said, make a couple sharp edges, but because of the atmospheric effects of the snow, there aren't going to be a whole lot of really hard, crisp edges. So be aware of that in the snow. And you really want to kind of pay attention to your edges and not make them too sharp or too defined, True to form Colorado fence that we see all the time out here just kind of says, hey, I'm on a ranch. It's going to be my darkest dark. It's closest to me. These kind of slat wood fences that are kind of old. Don't want to make them too perfect looking. And there's lots of snow, so I don't want to paint every slat of wood on that fence. Always look for opportunities to harmonize your colors in the different stages or phases of your painting. Put colors that are in the back and the front, colors in the front, put them in the back if it's appropriate, if it works. Okay, just getting on a few of these kind of low lights, highlights. Nothing's really a highlight in today's atmosphere and lighting, but there are some things that you can see out here are a little bit lighter, and that's why I said to start with a darker value with the snow, so that lighter values that you want to use would show up. Always trying to show contrast and interest with warm and cool, light and dark. Okay, let's take a quick look at what we got so far. The palette is getting covered up. You can see the ice crystals forming in the paints. The paint's being covered up. Kind of fun, but kind of not so fun. And so there will come a certain time where you got to kind of just wrap it up, because this is why. This is what happens on your canvas right here, is that it's the canvas that really slows you down, the ice crystals forming on the canvas. It's not so much your paints and your palette. That's what happens right there. So, but I like what we got. We got a good gesture, a good impression of what it felt like to be here today, a good memory. Let's look at some close-up brush strokes here. You know, part of painting in the snow is getting thick. You're forced to. And so that's a good thing for those of you that have trouble doing that. The unique lighting and atmosphere make it a very different experience. Okay, here we are a day or two later in the studio, and as you can see, we get a lot of water dripping off once the ice and snow melted from the palette, and that's okay. They're oils, they're fairly resistant to water, so it's no big deal. And if we kind of zoom in here, if you look at the paints themselves, everything's fine. You know, they still have the ice crystals are gone from the paint. You know, it just poured out on the water, so no harm, no foul. These are still good to use. And let's go up onto the canvas and take a look at what happened after the snowstorm. Okay, so you can see here that we have a different kind of a painting. If you've looked at any of my paintings, you can see this is very different, but I let it go probably a little too long because I was teaching and filming and videoing. Normally I would scoot out of there before it crystallized so much. So let's zoom in close here and look and see. And you can kind of see it's not dry yet. It's wet to the touch, but the ice crystals are still in the paint, mixed in with the paint, and the moisture will come out of there, but this texture will probably remain. That's probably how the painting's going to look. I might touch it up a little bit, but I'll probably leave it. Sometimes it's good to try something different, have a different look, a different feel to a painting. I think it speaks a lot to the snowstorm day that it was while I was out there. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit the link below in the description and get that free video on plein air setup. God bless, take care, see you next time.